This is Football at 4.
Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, also the YouTube channel. Just search Inside the Birds. Geoff Mosher joins us back here on a Wednesday edition. Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN. Day 2 of Eagles minicamp, and we're getting some information. How much of that information, though, do we translate moving forward? Geoff Mosher joins us now to get more into it. Geoff, first, welcome in. How you doing on this Wednesday?
I'm doing great, Josh. How are you?
Doing good, and I'm glad I get the chance to talk to you because you're someone who has seen a lot of different iterations of the Eagles over the years, and I am very fascinated by these defensive alignments they got going on out there because I understand that Vic Fangio told us a month ago that he really liked Zach Bond. I understand he said, I want to give these guys as much as they can before the season starts. But never in my wildest dreams did I expect Zach Bond to be one of the primary linebackers with the first team. And that's where I want to start. We're seeing already, I know it's only 2 days, Geoff, but we're seeing a lot of Bond, a lot of White, and the third guy is Nakobe Dean. Do we read anything into this? Because this is a completely new defensive coaching staff than we had last year.
Yeah, so I'm probably going to disappoint you. More importantly, our listeners, our crossover listeners at 97.3 and Inside the Birds. But I put so little into what I see at OTAs because, as you just said, I've seen so much, Josh. That was a very kind way of you dating me and my age here. This will actually be almost 20 years of covering the Eagles now for me. And some certain things just make sense. If you believe that a certain player can be cross-trained at a certain position, you start doing that early. And if you believe that this player has the ability, not just cross-train as a backup, but has the ability to do it as a starter, you've got to get that player reps against real competition as much as you can in the spring and summer, right? And the only avenues to do that are these camps and then when training camp starts. So when I see Zach Bond running at first team inside linebacker, there's no hidden answers to the test. Vic Fangio said, we think this guy can play inside linebacker. We already know he can play outside edge rusher linebacker. We want to see him play inside linebacker. Well, they're seeing him do it. Mekhi Becton is playing guard because the Eagles, as we reported when they first signed him on May 1st, I believe, we reported it on May 1st, that they wanted to take him a look at him at guard. So here's an opportunity that was presented because Landon Dickerson wasn't there. Now, you could throw him in at third-team guard and give him that opportunity, but the opportunity presented itself, and he's played enough games in the NFL, and they want to get a good look against real competition, so he's out there. He was out there at left guard for Landon Dickerson. This to me does not signal that when the season starts, Mekhi Becton pencil him in at right guard instead of Tyler Steen, and it doesn't mean that Nakobe Dean is now being benched or being thought of otherwise. He's coming back from 2 foot injuries. I'm certainly also not saying Nakobe Dean's, done so much in his first 2 years that he deserves to start. You got new guys, you got a new coordinator. Even today, right? Quinyon Mitchell, I think, was running at points on the first team, but so was Isaiah Rodgers and so was Billy Ringo. So that unfortunately is OTAs. You try to read through the tea leaves, you're going to get yourself in a lot of trouble.
All right, so in an attempt not to overly read into anything, as you said, you mentioned the corners because I think that's fascinating because it is not Quinyon Mitchell getting the first reps on the outside. It's been Keely Ringo yesterday and Isaiah Rodgers today. And by all reports, it looks like both of those guys have performed admirably, while Mitchell has also not performed poorly. For a guy who pretty much started his entire college career outside, they're playing him a lot inside, and he's holding up. So it kind of makes you wonder. Fangio said last month, Geoff, that he wants to be versatile. He doesn't want to have the same defense out there all the time. So it really does seem like he's telling these guys, look, get ready. I'm going to play you in a lot of different variations this year.
When the Eagles won the Super Bowl, Josh, in 2017, one of their big acquisitions at the end of camp was Ronald Darby.
Yep.
They really needed a corner. They didn't have an established corner. Ronald Darby got hurt at the, I think, in either week 1 or week 2 and wound up missing 10
Week
straight
1 in
weeks.
Washington, I believe.
Yeah. And they didn't just fill him with one spot. They had Rasul Douglas as a rookie. They had everybody's favorite guy to forget, Jalen Watkins, I believe, is who they had.
Not Jalen Mills. He was already there.
Yeah. Well, they had Jalen Mills too, but he was
Right.
on the other side, right? And then they had Patrick Robinson. So they would start Patrick Robinson on the outside, move him inside a nickel, then either bring in Watkins or Rasul Douglas. And the point I'm trying to make is Jim Schwartz had the foresight to know that he had different guys that he could play. And, I never really knew what specifically when he was going to go with one or the other, or if he was just trying to get reps up. I mean, it was always going to be Ronald Darby's job when he got back, but 10 weeks is a long time to go. So the point I hear is that Vic Fangio is new, and he's got new players, and he's got to get comfortable with them all. And Isaiah Rodgers is a guy who not only missed all of last year for the suspension, but Andrew DiCecco did a good job writing about this. He missed the last few games of the 2022 season with a foot injury. So this guy hasn't played football in a long time. He needs reps. They need to see what they got in him. So it doesn't surprise me. They're going to, and with all rookies, especially first-round picks and especially first-round picks in the latter half of the first round, they usually always have to earn their stripes. They don't always start off immediately. So this brings me back to my favorite expression, which is, call me on August 15th, and let's have a discussion about who the first team this and that are. Although even that, if you go back to last year, Kevon Wallace was running with the first team for a little while, and everybody thought he was going to finally make it and have this breakthrough year at safety. He doesn't even make the team.
Right.
Terrell Edmonds, first team safety for most of camp, and then by the last week of August, it was Justin Evans. So let's just see how they all play when the pads come out.
Talking with the Eagles insider reporter Geoff Mosher from the Inside the Birds podcast, InsideTheBirds.com, at Geoff P. Mosher on the Twitter X platform. Joining me here at Football at 4 on the Sports Bash. Josh Hennick filling in for Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN. Speaking of the coaches, you mentioned Fangio a couple times there. I want to play for you what Brandon Graham said today, because he was asked by the media what to him has been the biggest difference between last year and this year. And this isn't the first time Brandon has said this. He said this in an interview a couple months ago. Well, now he has spent more time with the coaches. And I don't want to put words in his mouth, but it almost sounds like, to me, Jeff, you know what you think, it almost sounds like he's doubling down on this point.
We got a good coach in Clint, and I really think that last year we just didn't. That's what we didn't have. We didn't have all the right coaches in the right position. I would say, and you could just see the guys just truly believing in what we got going on, and I'm excited for the young guys that just came in and new rookies coming in. They really gonna get a good shot at a good taste of what it really is to be in the NFL.
It sounds a lot like the reporting you, Jeff, and Adam had on the Inside the Birds pod about how there were some legitimate problems with that coaching staff last year.
Yeah, again, this is one of those, the answers to the test were all there in front of everybody. I don't think anybody at this point especially is shocked to hear players talking about the fact that you had, by the second half of the year especially, you had a guy running a scheme that wasn't his, and that's, Matt Patricia trying to run a Fangio-style scheme implemented by Sean Desai, right? I mean, you had different guys coaching up front, whether it was Washburn with the edges and Tracy Rocker on the inside. I mean, they lost Denard Wilson. That obviously had 3 different defensive backs coaches. It's okay to have multiple coaches. It's just everybody's got to be on the same page. And it didn't feel like from the start, I mean, even during the 10-1 start, how often did we talk about defense got lucky here? This guy dropped the pass. Justin Jefferson fumbles a ball out of the end zone. Somebody from the Chiefs, right? MVS drops a pass at the end of the game. There were just so many. Tyreek Hill dropped the touchdown pass in the Miami game. All these one-possession games that were the Eagles sort of were lucky to win because their breakdowns were not fully exposed. The Dallas game where Dak runs out of bounds. So, not a surprise. I mean, you had, again, the biggest thing is you had 2 different defensive coordinators. You had one running a scheme that wasn't his, and a lot of confusion in the secondary. And up front, too.
Well, up front's half of it, because if the whole communication issue, if you're not telling the front Brandon Graham and all those guys what they should be doing correctly, and you're not telling the back end what they should be doing correctly. Then when James Bradbury gets burned because he's a zone corner asked to play man, why should we be surprised that things didn't go right?
We looking back, shouldn't be. And I don't think most people were. I mean, even as the season was unfolding, because it was pretty clear coaching was a big issue and communication was a big issue and being on the same page was a big issue as well. By the way, the whole I've heard Mike talking about this. You just brought it up, and I'll address it now too. I do think certain schemes can help. Like James Bradbury. If you put him in Wink Martindale's man press, you're in trouble, right? He's not a man corner. He's been in his own corner. But the idea that like Vic Fangio's zone scheme is going to be better than Sean Desai's or their zone is zone. You know what I'm saying? Like match carry deliver is match carry deliver, and no matter who you are, you have to play some man defense at times. You got to go cover one and man guys up. Even if you're rushing four, because they're going to throw a lot of different outlets at you, right? So I don't think that there's some magic elixir in what Vic Fangio does that's going to make James Bradbury an all-pro corner again. So,
or maybe is that maybe part of the reason why he got reps at safety yesterday, because they're trying to figure out what Bradbury can do versus what he can't do?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to look into that a little bit more. I tend to think, there's no numbers at safety right now. I mean, they literally have two legit. Well, yeah, two, right? With C.J. Gardner-Johnson and with
and Reed, yeah.
Reed Blankenship. And let's be honest, like Reed is like a third or a fourth safety. I mean, he could be a number two safety if everything else around him is good. But Sidney Brown's hurt right now. Tristan McCollum played nicely in some of the spots, but nobody expected him to be.
You're being nice
in the top three, right? So yeah, so you put Bradbury there because he's not going to be your starting. He's not going to be the starting corner. You drafted Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. You got Keely Ringo. He's just not going to be the starting corner. Now, I don't think they move him to safety saying, hey, let's see what we got there. I think it's just, the funny thing is it's sort of like, let's keep him healthy, but then he gets hurt first day. Whether that's real or not, I don't know. I'll look more into that. But
it was weird because I saw the reporting yesterday on social media where like, oh, he was injured backpedaling, and all of a sudden you get the video of him going to the tent with the trainer, and you're like, you got injured backpedaling, and now he's on the sidelines, hands on hips in some of the pictures, like almost like I don't want to be here, and you're just like,
I don't think we can blame backpedaling on the whole move to safety. I'm pretty sure as a corner, a zone corner, that's part of your job as well.
Right. So. It's just so strange because you mentioned how they're thin they are at safety. And you also mentioned a few minutes ago, Geoff, remember a couple of years ago, they brought in Ronald Darby. A couple of years after that, they brought in C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Howie Roseman has gone out and traded for guys in the past. So, I mean, there's a possibility, and I don't think it's hyperbole to say this, the starting safety of this team is not currently on the roster.
That's possible. That is very possible. We'll see. I mean, it could be a trade. I know Simmons is still out there, and you're going to have to wonder how long he's willing to stay unemployed until, for his price tag until his price tag comes down. So obviously that's a name everybody will be watching. But the Eagles aren't the only one wondering, when Justin Simmons is going to decide to play. So, and there are a lot of teams that need safety help as well. So that'll be an interesting one.
If we could flip it over to offensive line, because you mentioned earlier Mekhi Becton getting reps at left guard, which we know he's only there because, Landon Dickerson is not there right now. Excused absence. He's just, he's not there. It's not like he's like abandoning the team or something in the offseason. Let's keep that in mind for folks who are wondering, where's Landon Dickerson? But you mentioned about right guard. Right now it's Tyler Steen. Becton's in the building. You drafted the young guy from Michigan, Trevor Keegan. Yeah, Trevor Keegan.
Who's already hurt. And as we reported on Inside the Birds, there were some issues with, how scouts felt his durability.
True. Although he did start 37 games in college, so it's kind of an interesting.
That's sort of the same thing with Nakobe Dean. He never missed a game at Georgia, except there were concerns about his ability to hold up because of his body size and his frame at the NFL level. So this is a different situation,
right?
But just but their concerns were there.
So when you look at right guard, I had the same question I will ask you that I asked Mike Gill a few days ago. Is the starting right guard for this team even in the building right now? Is it like safety where we could be halfway through training camp and I pick up my phone, I put on the Inside the Birds pod, and you and Adam are talking about the Eagles trading for a right guard?
Yeah, I mean, look, so it's kind of funny because 2 pods ago, what's today? Today's Wednesday. So the one that came out on, I think Thursday? I don't know, maybe the one that came out Monday. I lose track of time. The one that one of the more recent ones came out, we were looking at positional depth, and we said, right guard is a spot where it wouldn't surprise us if the Eagles still had a move left. And literally that day is the day they signed Max Sharping. So maybe that was Monday, right?
Monday,
yeah. So boy, we nailed that one pretty well. So I do think the starting right guard for the Eagles, and barring anybody getting hurt or some major, I think the starting right guard for the Eagles is on the team right now.
Okay.
I think it could be only because, what else is out there? I mean, Sharping is a guy who's played for 6 years, right? And he started playoff games. You're not going to find anybody else on the way. You might find somebody who gets cut, but is that guy going to be any different than Matt Sharping at this point? Probably not.
Well, the reason I bring it up is because I
just think Steen and Becton are your lead candidates. I mean, Matt Hennessy has never played guard, even though he's center/guard. I think he's more backup center. But between Steen, Becton, and Sharping, right, I feel like someone's got to emerge there.
My mind, Geoff, keeps going back to 2017, right? Remember they brought in Chance Warmack and they drafted Isaac Seumalo, and eventually it was Wisniewski, the guy that nobody thought was going to be the starting guard, and they win a Super Bowl. It's just sometimes this stuff happens. At least in my mind, I don't remember anyone saying in 2017, oh, yeah, Wisniewski's the starter at left guard for this team.
No, I mean, it was crazy because, by the time they got into the season, he was the top backup guard.
Right.
Because they were going to go with Seumalo, and it didn't work, right, at that moment. And what a great rebound story for Isaac Seumalo. So they went to Warmack for like a second. That didn't work. And then they decided we're going to go with our steady veteran, right? And I feel like you have that situation here. You have a guy you want to win it in Tyler Steen. You have maybe a project, the way Warmack was as a former first-round pick, in Becton. Mm-hmm. And if all else fails, you have a guy who has started for many years and has played in playoff games in Sharping. So, the only difference is you got no Jason Kelce. So
that's the key, yes.
Tougher, right. Yeah.
And that's the part that I heard Brian Baldinger bring up on Chris Long's podcast a couple of weeks ago, where he said, Baldy said, look, you had a guy in Kelce who was there for a decade plus. You had stability. You had the same guy doing everything. And, Adam brought up yesterday on Football at 4, Geoff, we still haven't heard what Cam Jurgens is like, calling out the blitzes, organizing the offensive line. I mean, the dude doesn't exactly have a ton of experience even in college at center. Right. So it's like, you almost look at Hennessy and you're like, is that a break glass in case of emergency situation?
And if that's the case, it's probably not a great. I mean, you want him to be your backup guard center. He has 0 starts at guard in the NFL. So now you've got other guys who have at least started guard, and so neither does Mekhi Becton, right? But you have a different conversation when you're talking about a freak of nature athlete, at least that he was, and a former first round pick. So it gives them options. It gives them optionality. And like I said, I suppose if at the end of camp, if they're disappointed with all 3 or 4 of these guys, maybe there's a move to be made. But it's hard to believe that move to be made is going to inspire some great it's a waiver wire pickup. It's a low-level trade. Every team is looking for better offensive linemen. So if there's an offensive lineman available, that means the team is disappointed with that guy, and it's probably not a great situation because otherwise you're looking to keep as many offensive linemen, decent ones, as you've got.
Yeah. Geoff, before I let you go, I did want to hit on, again, not trying to age you, but as someone who has seen a lot of variations of Philadelphia sports, who has heard how fans can be, there is a lot of, shall I call it, consternation online about Jalen Hurts and his extra large biceps and triceps this week. Oh. There's the pictures of him in the sleeveless shirt, and he looks like he's training to be a superhero
Wow.
with the amount of body flexion he's got going on. So my question to you is, what is your response to some fans are saying, hey, great, Jalen's in great shape. Other people are saying he's too buff to play quarterback.
So I was actually unaware. Maybe I'm also showing my age because I'm not living on X or Instagram like a lot of people are, but I was unaware that this was a thing. Listen, I won't dismiss it because I remember this was a thing about Donovan toward the latter half of his career. He got injured. Remember, he was hurt in 2006. He was hurt in 2005 and 2006, right? 2005 was the injury to his core muscle, right? And then 2006 was the ACL, right? So he came back in 2007 and they were like a 500 team. And I remember him getting a little bit bigger and talking about the injuries and trying to get stronger. And he was a big guy to begin with. And some people felt like when he got bigger, he became less agile, less mobile, and his play, they felt regressed for it too. I have not seen what Jalen Hurts looks like. Not really worried about it at the moment. But again, you can sort of understand this guy has been taking a beating the last few years. You had the collarbone injury, you had the knee injury, the ankle injury. Everybody thought he was hurt for a lot of last year, the way he was getting down quicker or not running. So maybe now you're talking about biceps, right? That's a little bit different than your whole entire body. I don't know. Maybe he's trying to rival Will Levis for most yoked up quarterback in the NFL. I don't know. I don't know what the science behind it is. It remains to be. We'll have to see if he looks different as a mover or thrower of the football because of it.
Yeah, I'm having trouble finding the exact picture, but I found a video example. I'll share it on the screen with you here, because
you got to be careful because I vaguely remember around these times, right, mini camps, training camps, where you'll see like these side pictures of guys, like especially running backs, and they'll be like, "Oh my God, this guy's so fat." I think they did that to Ezekiel Elliott one year, and it was just like he was just having a sweaty jersey on, and then like the next day he looked like normal again.
I mean, this is the video where the picture's from, basically, where he clearly has some impressive definition on the delts and the arms. Then he just conveniently pulls the sleeve down to cover it up all of a sudden, But there's a screenshot of him near the other quarterbacks, and it's like, Hurts looks like he's preparing, for the Wolverine Deadpool movie instead of the NFL season,
Yeah, well, I mean, look, I don't know if doing that, looking like that, actually makes your arm stronger. I've been told that a lot of the strength in your throws is about your lower body, which he is, extremely strong at, and how you plant to the ground. I mean, certainly it doesn't. I'm sure it doesn't hurt to have stronger biceps in that situation. But when it comes to quarterback play, decision making, accuracy, pre-snap awareness, post-snap awareness, that's going to be the stuff that really determines how well of a year that he has. So I don't make too much of a big deal about the bigger biceps.
Yeah, I mean again,
was Tom Brady yoked up? Was Aaron Rodgers yoked up? I mean, you know what I'm saying? These guys were strong, no doubt, but you never said, "Oh man."
Yeah, but can I just say this? Tom Brady's an anomaly. Like,
okay,
you know what I mean?
Then give me. Who is CJ Stroud yoked up? I don't know. I haven't seen any, what he looks like, but I'm saying how many quarterbacks who are just above average are you raving about the size of their biceps?
Almost none.
Right. So
that's the answer.
Will Levis, what's the first thing you say about Will Levis? And by the way, Will Levis might go on to be a good quarterback. I'm not trying to diss Will Levis, nor am I trying to downplay Jalen Hurts. I'm just saying, like, the first thing you'll say about Will Levis is, "Oh my God, he looks like, Mr. like USA," right?
Right.
But, we have no idea what kind of quarterback he's going to be.
I just, like I said, I'm not trying to diss Jalen or anything, but I've just saw a lot of people sharing the screenshot from that Twitter video. Thanks to Chris Franklin from JFSB putting it out there. Apparently, I think that he's gotten more followers out of just that video than anything he's ever done. You know how that works, Geoff. It's like you break news. You're a great reporter. Nobody cares. You put out one viral video.
Josh, I remember working at back when it was called Comcast Sportsnet, now NBC Sports Philly. We had this board that would show you all the stories on the website and what the views were.
Mm-hmm.
And literally the day that Cole Hamels pitch a no-hitter and then they traded him like the next day or something?
Like a week later, yeah, because he pitched
Yeah, a
no-hitter
week
against,
later,
I think it was the Cubs, I think it was.
Yeah, sometime in that span, that happened. And I had been chasing down a story for a long time and finally got it about Chris Polk. I mean, this is how ridiculous it is. It's Chris Polk. He's the fourth running back on the team. They had given him the low free agent tender because he was like a undrafted free agent. And then he wanted them to renege it. He wanted to be a free agent. So they finally reneged it because they had added in free agency. So I got the scoop. I had it first. I put it out there, wrote a story on it. That was the number one story on csnphilly.com over the Cole Hamels no-hitter or trade, what it was, because that's how the Eagles are in Philly, right? And so to your point about the most little thing can get like blow up, or now we call it going viral. I remember walking into I'm like, are people crazy? They care this much about Chris Polk now being a free agent more than Cole Hamels? It's crazy.
It is funny. By Polk, was he University of Washington Husky?
Yes, he was. Yeah, and Jalen Polk was not related, by the way. I checked in. I was a big Chris Polk fan, by the way. I liked him. He was a good dude. Ran like probably why he didn't have a very long career, but he ran like the way Isaiah Pacheco runs now. I mean, he just bowled people over.
Yeah.
But he was always hurt because of it.
He's Geoff Mosher at Geoff P. Mosher on the Twitter X platform, joining us here for Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast, InsideTheBirds.com, and wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Geoff, great stuff today. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, brother. See you.